now have Executive Order number 57, which aims to bolster the country's maritime security in the face of, quote-unquote, open, unabating, illegal, and coercive attacks by China. This EO released on Sunday seeks to strengthen the Philippines' maritime security and maritime domain awareness. It covers the country's oceans, seas, and other bodies of water, as well as all maritime-related activities, infrastructure, people, cargo, and vessels. It also aims to protect and conserve the Philippines' maritime assets, maritime practices, territorial activities, and coastal peace and order.
To achieve that, EO number 57 renamed and reorganized the National Coast Watch Council, or NCWC, into what will now be called the National Maritime Council, or NMC. This will be chaired by the Executive Secretary, a post currently held by Lucas Bersamin. Other members include the heads of agencies like the Defense, Environment, and Foreign Affairs departments. The Council is in charge of formulating strategies to ensure an effective governance framework for the country's maritime security and domain awareness. The National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea will be an attached agency of the NMC, and the task force will receive policy guidance from the President through the Council.
Pinalakas din yung kanyang powers and functions, no? Ibig sabihin, yung kabuuan ng buong Pilipinas na po ngayon, ang covered niya. I think the President's statements was very clear. No, we will not be deterred. No, tayo ay handa na gawin ang lahat para ipaglaban yung atin din naman, no, yung ating mga maritime rights and entitlements in the West Philippine Sea and in other parts of the archipelago. That is why the President has strengthened yung maritime domain awareness and maritime security across the entire Philippines. Hindi na lang nakatutok sa West Philippine Sea.
Beijing reacted almost immediately to this EO and didn't stray far from their usual script. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin says their sovereignty and maritime rights in the disputed waters will not be affected by Philippine policies. Listen into this.
无论菲方出台什么样的政策，
No matter what policies the Philippines introduces, it will not affect China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. We hope that the Philippine side will honor its commitments and abide by the relevant understanding and consensus reached between China and the Philippines, abide by the provisions of the joint declaration of the parties in the South China Sea, signed by China and ASEAN countries, and stop infringement and provocation. Stop instigating foreign forces to intervene in South China Sea affairs and return to the right track of properly managing the situation through negotiation and consultation. We should shoulder our due responsibilities for maintaining peace and stability in the South China Sea.
Well, from the National Coast Watch Council, it is now the National Maritime Council. So, dati yung coast lang, ngayon it's the whole Philippines and maritime affairs, maritime domain.
And it's composed of a group of some of the most important agencies.
So again, another interagency task force.
Oh nga, no, it's another
interagency.
IETF.
Actually,
no
tinitignan ko yung
tinitignan
ko yung National Coast Watch Council. Kasama naman yung mga DA, DOE, DNR. Ang nadagdag lang dito, NSA, yung NICA, yung DOTR, at yung OSG.
So basically, halos lahat na
Tapos
yata ng
yung
agency.
support agencies, yung PDEA, National Mapping and Resource Info Authority, Philippine Space Agency, and the UP Institute of Maritime Affairs. Yun yung nadagdag naman sa support agency.
Okay, so there's also beefing up on the research side of things. Okay,
So
but
basically lahat na.
this EO has been met with both what we call cheers and jeers. So there's people on the pro side and the against side. On the pro side, you have retired Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Earlier today, he spoke at a press con hosted by the National Youth Movement for the West Philippine Sea, which is urging the government to file another arbitration case against China. They said that there's been massive environmental damage in the disputed waters. But listen to what Justice Carpio had to say.
Well, I'm in favor of that because that will streamline and harmonize all our efforts. No? That will be putting our act together. But dapat ginawa ito noong pa. Like for example, when we filed the arbitration at The Hague, and we needed data hirap na hirap kami to get saan pa kukunin ito. There was no central authority where you can get the data. The DOJ already announced that they are preparing to file a damage case against China before UNCLOS for the destruction of the marine environment in Skoda Shoal and Brussels Reef. All we are doing is to encourage the government to continue with that.
So as Regina said, not everyone was for this, or there is also a con side or an against side. One of those is Senator Amy Marcos, who is not so pleased with this EO57.
Going up against the brother again.
Hot and heavy. Okay, I'm going to quote Senator Amy. This is what she said. Emotion rather than reason has prevailed in our maritime conflict with China and is leading us down a dangerous path that will cost us more than just Filipino pride. Section 7 of the newly signed EO57 welcomes many a Trojan horse of foreign interference through donations, contributions, grants, bequests, or gifts from domestic and foreign sources that the National Maritime Center has been authorized to accept. Such largesse has been the fuel to never-ending conflict, as we still see in the Ukraine and Gaza. And also today, Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva, of course colleague of Senator Amy Marcos, he filed Resolution 980, which strongly condemns the CCG, or Chinese Coast Guard, and maritime militias, quote, unprovoked aggression and continued harassment.
Last year, we also know that Justice Secretary Boying Remulla said they are consulting legal experts on possible legal actions at the International Tribunal. We still don't have clarity at this point what that means, whether that's following up or following through on the 2016 case. But yeah, we're just going by what he said.
Oh, it wasn't just the weather that was hot over the Holy
I
Week.
know.
Apparently, social media as well, including about this supposed gentleman's agreement. Retired Justice Carpio talked about that supposed gentleman's agreement between former President Duterte and Chinese President Xi Jinping. He said this agreement was a trap set up by China.
China wants the BRP Sierra to just collapse. Now, BRP Sierra Madre is very weakly defended. China could easily seize BRP Sierra Madre, but they are not doing it because we carry Sierra Madre in a roster of active ships. If China will attack it, that is an armed attack on a public vessel of the Philippines, we can invoke the treaty. Alam ng China the consequence. Kaya iniintay lang ng China, lulubog yung BRP Sierra Madre. So the aim of China is hindi dapat i-repair para lulubog na. Pumayag si Duterte, hindi na namin i-repair. That means we fell into the trap of China.
There's certainly a lot of noise about this supposed gentleman's agreement today, and it got even noisier today because former spokesman Attorney Sal Panelo said on SMNI that he spoke to the former president twice during the Holy Week and that there was no agreement whatsoever daw.
Oh, ito yung sinabi niya, babasahin ko, no? Kung sino mang nagkakalat ng gentleman's agreement, nagsisinungaling, baka gusto lang ng publisidad sa sarili niya. So that's what former legal counsel of President Duterte said.
Oh yeah, sorry, legal counsel, not spokesman.
But he was also a
is
spokesman.
Roque. At a very short stint.
For a very
correct.
short stint.
For a very short stint. So we don't know which is which. But in all probability, they are responding to different questions because there's two big questions at the heart of this issue. Number one, who promised to tow away the BRP Sierra Madre to begin with? And number two, was there ever really a promise to not do any repairs on the BRP Sierra Madre? So that's
Well, you know, sabi ni spokesperson Harry Roque na yung status quo, walang gagalaw, walang dadalhin, tubig at ano lang, pagkain lang ang pwedeng dalhin doon.
So magkaiba
No
yun na
repairs.
issue doon sa
Iba yun sa
supposed
tow-away.
towing away na magaganap na up to now, I mean, this witch hunt has been going on for months now.
Yeah.
Nobody has even able to trace no, kung sino ba
actually
talaga
years, 10 years, diba? We were talking about on Friday.
Thanks to our archaeologist here na nagdig
10 years ago, China was already accusing us of lying, saying that we promised to tow it away, but we never did.
So apparently
It
there
like-
was also an ASEAN agreement on that, that no more expansions. So I'm wondering if that was a fruit of that conversation in the ASEAN.
under the
Yung
Declaration
2014
of Conduct,
article.
DOC.
Oo.
One thing we know for sure today is that the president's rhetoric on China has hardened after the national security cluster met last week. Because when he was in Melbourne, when Marcos was in Melbourne just in early March, he gave an interview to ABC. Yes, that same interview that went viral because he, kind of laughed off the question about corruption. Anyway, in that interview, he said, the ongoing attempt is always to try and lower the temperature down when the rhetoric is up. And then also in November last year at the APEC summit in San Francisco, Marcos said he will meet with Xi Jinping on the sidelines of that summit to quote-unquote get the view of the Chinese president on what we can do to bring down the temperature to not escalate the situation in the West Philippine Sea. But yun nga, again, during the Holy Week break, he issued a statement himself saying, in a nutshell, enough is enough. We have to do something. He's proposing measures against China's quote-unquote
Countermeasures.
countermeasures, open, unabating, illegal, coercive attacks. Those are his words. So talagang something's changed. Okay, let's try to get more insights on this new executive order. First guest with us tonight is security analyst Chester Cabalza. Chester, good evening. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Martina and Gretchen and Sean. Thanks for having me again in your program.
I'm gathering you didn't have a very peaceful and relaxed Holy Week break. Huh? Busy ka, I'm sure.
Exciting.
So let's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since morning, I had a lot of interviews from the media about this EO57.
I can imagine. So let's get into it. What did you think?
Well, of course, this what differs to the Coastwatch Council to the Maritime Security Council here. I think what is more important here in the EO57 is the proclamation where our president is clinging for the fundamental rights to live in peace and freedom. And of course, he wanted Filipinos to be free from fear from violence and threat. I think that's the core of the EO57 because of the series of tirades and of course water cannon coming from China. And if you try to look at it, it's just an expansion of the previous executive order that was signed by then President Benigno Aquino in 2011 when he established the National Coastwatch Council. And then after that, we saw the 2012 Scarborough Shoal standoff. And now we are here in another series of standoff in Ayungin Shoal. So I think this is, it proves also the side of the Philippines where we look at the legalist approach of the Philippines, because this is the strength of the Philippines, of our country. 2016, we have the arbitration award, which even up to now, China disregards it. But the international community praises the Philippines for its maritime rules-based norms. This time around, we are trying to fix our own domestic laws in order for us to safeguard our own maritime domains. So the Executive Order number 57 will help us to, in a way, look at the different parameters on consultation, research, administration, technical services of these new council.
Right. Chester, just to get your thoughts on this, you're saying basically that EO57 is something that we do need in the face of what we're experiencing in the South China Sea / West Philippine Sea. My question is, do you think that this has been a long time coming, or was this in reaction to the recent spate of increased harassment, etc., in the disputed waters?
Possibly, this is a clear reaction to the series of violence that China Coast Guard has done to our Philippine Coast Guard. But in my understanding, perhaps this is the remedy of our government, because even up to now, we still do not have the Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes. On the domestic law that would help us safeguard our maritime domains would be the baseline laws that we have. So remember, in our past conversations before, three important laws should prevail in our in our strategic culture. Namely, you should have the baseline laws, and then of course the Maritime Zones Act and the archipelagic sea lanes. The two other laws are still proposed by the Congress, and we're still waiting for that, so that in a way this could help our country to secure its sovereignty and protect the people basically.
Chester, prior to the National Maritime Council, EO, there was also the National Coast Watch Council, and before that,
Yeah.
the Commission on Maritime and Ocean Affairs. But I don't think we hear a lot of those two councils in the past. What do you think
Right.
would make this one effective?
I think this one is bigger in scope because it tries to harmonize all the other laws that we have. Remember, our problem in the Philippines is that we always cling to crafting laws. That has been the solution to many of our complex problems. But we didn't realize that implementation, enforcement has always been our problem also in our country. It's the reason why the enactment of this new executive order is to harmonize all these executive orders that had been established and crafted in the past. But if you try to look at the EO 57 now, it tries to merge all of these maritime laws related to coastal defense and to maritime security. So in a way, it tries, because of course, we have to remember that when we talk about maritime security, it keeps on changing also. It just so happened that in the Coastal Watch and oceanic statutes that we have, we were just focused on one area, which was the West Philippine Sea. But this time around, in the EO 57, it entails all the internal waters and the maritime domain around the archipelago of the Philippines.
Chester, one thing that was that popped out to me in EO 57 no, is itong mga allowing the council, the new council, to accept donations, blah, blah, etc.
Donations, contributions, grants, bequests, or gifts from both domestic and foreign sources.
There you go. Senator Amy Marcos has already voiced her concern about this. She called it a Trojan horse. What do you think?
Well, for me, this is in preparation for the upcoming trilateral summit in Washington. Remember that Japan has proposed for the overseas security aid. This is the first of its kind, where it just focuses on the security and national security infrastructures. Remember, Japan has been offering us the ODA, or the official development aid, which focus on the infrastructure and other socioeconomic developmental projects. But this time around, it's just focused on the security. And we know for a fact that Japan has been aggressive in helping our Coast Guard. But if we try to look at it, the U.S. also has this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework where we try to help us in terms of our security needs. So I don't think that this negates the newly enacted and signed executive order, because ultimately it helps us to widen the network of the Philippines. Because if you try to look at it, the pendulum of economics is also shifting. If you try to look at it, we are now in the stage where PPP, or the public-private partnership, is in the offing right now, and Philippine Coast Guard is a civilian organization. It's not part of the military. It's under the Department of Transportation. So basically, we need all the help and aid for aiding our resources right now. Because for me, I think we are lacking on those kinds of infrastructures. There's no problem as long as it is written, it is transparent, and the public knows about it. And remember that part of the modernization program of the Philippines is with the help of the private sector, and of course with our allies and partners. So there's no problem about this. I think this is not a Trojan horse or a Pandora's box that we are seeing right now. I think this is just an expansion of what we are expecting from our
But,
friends and allies, as long as it is clear to the public that this is for national security.
Right. But just laymanize it for us. That means we can now accept any amount of money in the name of bolstering maritime security. Is that what it means?
Not really money, but aid.
What kind of
In
aid
the
are we
form
talking?
of vessels or military material. Money should be it should not be equated to money. It can be loans and
Equipment, stuff like
investment
that?
packages.
I do have to note, though, that I took a look at EO 57, the past one, and there was this same provision. So it's not new.
So
It's the same.
So you can take grants, but not. I don't know. It's grants to me or like
Yeah, grants,
in the
which
form
I
of
think
cash.
the Philippine Coast Guard has benefited a lot,
Yeah, okay.
particularly with the help of Japan. If you notice in the Coast Guard modernization, it was Japan that truly helped the Philippines in terms of acquiring Coast Guard vessels. And up to now, there is, in my recent, because I told you last time I'm writing a book, in my research last time, JICA and definitely the Japanese government has been offering the Philippines. This is not only for acquiring vessels, no? It can also be packaged for training and other, of course, equipment.